Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are officially live here on YouTube. I want to make sure I'm not having any weird audio problems, and we are good. Thank you all very much for tuning in today. Today is a wonderful, a very hot Wednesday, June 25th. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to talk about today. And I want to give you guys a little bit of a rundown, and then I think it's best that we just break everything open. So what are the topics of the day? Folks, earlier today, CNN, everybody's favorite mainstream media source, CNN, published an article saying that President Trump's bombing run on Tehran, or not on Tehran, on Iran, on the various nuclear enrichment facilities in Iran, was unsuccessful, that it didn't do any damage, that Iran still has its entire nuclear apparatus, etc., etc. And this was coming out of CNN. This is classified intelligence, and they made this report. As it would turn out, this was entirely wrong. It was an absolute lie. It was based on gossip and hearsay. And so President Trump and like 5 other people in his administration today went scorched earth on CNN. They dropped some ballistic missiles on CNN, figuratively speaking. We have a lot to talk about regarding that. Now, we also have a comprehensive update on what really went on behind the scenes with President Trump's bunker buster bombs on these Iranian nuclear facilities. We have a ton more intelligence, insight into how all of this played out and exactly how much damage was done. What is the current state of Iran's nuclear program? We're going to talk about that today. And, ladies and gentlemen, there's big news coming out of New York. 33-year-old Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani has just defeated Andrew Cuomo. You all know Andrew Cuomo in New York City's Democrat primary. And right now, everyone is expecting that what's his name, Zohran Mamdani, is going to become the new mayor of New York City on November 4th, at which point they have their elections. That's just 3.5 months from now. Now, of course, he still has to beat, there's a Republican candidate and an independent candidate, former Mayor Eric Adams is running as an independent. Now, but that being said, he has this guy, this Democrat socialist, 33-year-old Zohran Mamdani is now the Democrat candidate. And so we have a lot to talk about. This is one of these canary in the coal mine type of situations where this is very emblematic, very telling of just exactly how far gone the Democratic Party has become. We are going to break all of that down. We have a lot to talk about. And then beyond that, President Trump is in Europe, or he was at least earlier today, at this massive NATO summit. And pretty much President Trump is in the process of recreating the entire world. Okay, I think a lot of us here are probably not the biggest fans of NATO. Maybe NATO is going to get a little bit better under President Trump's direction, under his directive. Okay, so folks, like I said, we have maybe 3, 4, 5 big, massive topics today that I want to go through with you guys. And of course, as we're going through all of this, we're going to be scanning to see if there's any breaking news updates this evening. Right now, it is 2:34 on the West Coast, where I am, and it is 5:34 on the East Coast, where probably most of you guys are. Fun fact, 80% of Americans live east of the Rockies. So if you live on the West Coast like me, you're kind of the odd one out. But anyway, folks, I want to go ahead and get into all of this because today's going to be a big day and we have a lot to talk about. One more time, if you are tuning in, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming back and tuning into the broadcast. Make sure to hit the like button down below because that helps with the whole YouTube algorithm. It's I don't even know how it works, but I know that helps. And also, if you are not currently subscribed to the channel, make sure that you are subscribed. And with that being said, folks, we have a lot to talk about today. Breaking news. Trump Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says whoever is leaking fake information about Trump's strike on Iran is potentially committing what? Treason. Take a look.
Underline early, but it was leaked. Somebody decided to leak this from the DIA. And it's being used in the media, and it's all over today, that, aha, Trump said it was obliterated, but it's not obliterated. It's set back months, but it's not over from Iran's nuclear program's perspective. Your reaction to the night?
One of these ongoing narratives that has been echoed and propelled by CNN is that, yes, Trump dropped a bunch of bombs at various locations in Iran, but that the damage was inconsequential. It didn't even blow up any of Iran's nuclear equipment. Now, why, real quick, before we break all of this down, and there's a lot to talk about here, why would the left-wing media, why would the rhinos on the right side of the aisle, why are people from multiple different angles trying to push this narrative that President Trump's bombing run was ineffective? Why is this narrative being pushed? That, yeah, President Trump dropped these bombs, but it was inconsequential, and Iran still has capacity to enrich uranium, et cetera, et cetera. Why is this narrative being pushed? I'll tell you why. It's people that want America to get involved in the Middle East. It's people that want America to have boots on the ground, war on terror 2.0. It's those people, because if they can push the narrative, and implant the idea that, yes, Trump bombed Iran, but it didn't do anything, and Iran still has the capacity to enrich uranium, then what? Then we got to go back in. Then we need to drop more bombs. Then maybe we need a long-term presence in the Middle East. Then maybe we need an invasion of Iran. We need boots on the ground, just like 2003. So this entire narrative that, yes, he dropped the bombs, but nothing really happened, it wasn't a big deal, and Iran is stronger than ever, or at least they can still enrich their uranium. This is all this idea to try to get us back in the Middle East. Do not misunderstand that. We have a super chat here. Anonymous Nobody says, Democrat is to socialism as gentleman is to... Hey, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
To that, and I assume you know what we're talking about with this leaked intel report.
Well, it goes without saying that leaking that type of information, whatever the information, whatever side it comes out on, is outrageous. It's treasonous. So it ought to be investigated.
Treasonous.
And whoever did it, whoever's responsible for it, should be held accountable. It could hurt lives in the future. Leaking is a completely unacceptable thing. But let me give you, because I've read all the damage assessment reports from not just our government, but from other governments. And I'm not going to get into anything that's top secret, but let me tell you for sure what happened here. There are three distinct facilities in Iran that we were concerned with. Isfahan, which is a conversion facility. You cannot weaponize unless you have what's called the conversion process at the beginning of enrichment, and then a conversion process to metallicize the material at the end of enrichment. That conversion facility, which as far as we know is the only facility in Iran that can do this, was completely destroyed at Isfahan. It's above ground. It was hit with a 30,000-pound bunker buster, and it could not survive that hit. So they have no conversion opportunity, and that means they cannot weaponize, even if they've enriched to 90%. Then there are two other nuclear reactors in Natanz, one above ground and one below ground.
He knows it all.
The below ground one we know we eviscerated, and the above ground one, which had been hit by the Israelis and had been substantially damaged, we put another bomb on top of it just to make sure that it was eviscerated, and we know for a fact it was. Fordo is the last enrichment reactor that was operating there, and we put 12 bunker buster bombs on Fordo.
Wow.
There's no doubt that it breached the canopy. There's no doubt that it was well within reach of the depth that these bunker buster bombs go to. And there's no doubt that it was obliterated.
So, folks, what does he say? He says, listen, this is Trump administration guarantee. These bunker buster bombs were successful, and we know that all of these facilities were successfully destroyed. And also he says that we don't only have this intelligence and this confirmation from the American intelligence community, but from also other intelligence communities that we're going to talk about later today. They blew the living hell out of this thing. And once again, still, despite this, there are certain people, certain groups that are trying to push the narrative that, yes, he dropped the bombs, but Iran still has an incredible capacity to enrich uranium. We got to be careful. We might need to go back in. We might need to start dropping even more bombs. We might need a full-on ground invasion of Iran just to be safe, just to be careful, despite what the Trump administration is saying and despite what numerous national intelligence agencies are saying, American and not. Still, you have people that are trying to push us. Listen, Trump is going to have a hard time over the next couple of weeks and months. He most certainly has a lot of pressure from a lot of people trying to get us involved again in the Middle East. They want a boots on the ground invasion. They want regime change. President Trump has been very clear. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't want regime change. It's not his concern. Blow up the nuclear enrichment facilities. That's it. Make sure they can't make a nuclear weapon. And we're gone. Now, Pete Hegseth went ballistic today, talking about the same topic, talking about this fake news CNN report agenda. It's all fake and it's a lie. Take a look at this.
There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots, these refuelers, these fighters, these air defenders, the skill and the courage it took to go into enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the American people and the world to take out a nuclear program is beyond what anyone in this audience can fathom. And then the instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons, to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce? And when they introduce that preliminary report that's deemed to be a low assessment. You know what a low assessment means? Low confidence in the data in that report. And why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence of what was just bombed by 12 30,000-pound bombs is buried under a mountain, devastated and obliterated.
This is one of these things, like, I don't know, this has been eye-opening just how dumb a lot of people are, frankly. These are bunker buster bombs. These bombs are designed specifically to penetrate deep under the ground and deliver their entire explosive payload under the ground, deep under the ground, inside of a bunker, deep under the ground. Given that is the case, given that is what these bombs are specifically designed to do, would it make sense that you would have a giant explosive crater above the ground? Like a conventional bomb? No, of course not, because these bombs are specifically designed. These bombs are very special, very unique. They're not like other bombs. They're supposed to penetrate, I guess dig is not the right word, penetrate deep into the ground and blow up under the ground where the bunker is, right? So you have some people looking at the satellite imagery and saying, well, nothing even happened. It's like, well, you wouldn't be able to see it, would you? Because it's deep underground.
So if you want to make an assessment of what happened at Fordo, you better get a big shovel and go really deep, because Iran's nuclear program is obliterated. And somebody somewhere is trying to leak something to say, oh, with low confidence, we think maybe it's moderate. Those that dropped the bombs precisely in the right place know exactly what happened when that exploded. And you know who else knows? Iran. That's why they came to the table right away, because their nuclear capabilities have been set back beyond what they thought were possible because of the courage of a commander-in-chief who led our troops, despite what the fake news wants to say.
It's actually nuts. This is a big conversation we had here on this live broadcast about 2 days ago, maybe 3. They dropped all 12 of the 14. I think they said 14 or whatever. They dropped all of these bunker buster bombs on Fordow on very small ventilation shafts on the side of the hillside. You know, if you're living in a bunker 90 meters underground, you got to get air in and air, you got to have a ventilation shaft. You got to have an HVAC system or whatever, air conditioning, whatever. And so they had these secret, concealed, hidden ventilation shafts coming out of the side of the hill. That is where they targeted every single one of these bunker buster bombs. They targeted the air shafts because that was a weak spot in the design of this bunker. It's almost like, you know, I hate to make a Star Wars analogy, but if you want to blow up the Death Star, Luke Skywalker, he fires his photon torpedo or whatever into that little ventilation shaft. Pretty much it's the same thing, okay? Sorry, I'm a Star Wars nerd. I apologize. But anyway, what's most impressive about that is that the ventilation shafts in modern recent satellite imagery are invisible. You can't even tell them. So the U.S. government, the Pentagon here, they pulled up satellite imagery of the Fordow bunker from 10 years ago when it was under construction. If you looked at satellite images of 10 years ago when Fordow was being built, you could identify, wow, there's a little ventilation shaft. As it was being built, they were taking photos of this every day. They referenced 10-year-old photos and said, yeah, we know where the shaft is because we watched this thing getting built 10 years ago. That's where we dropped the bomb, right? it actually really is very impressive the way that they executed this, and they are totally right to call out this fake news media. And on top of that, Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, we're going to hear a lot from her right now. She was pissed at all of these CNN lies. Take a look at this. We have a couple clips. She did the whole media tour today, just obliterating CNN fake news lies. Take a look. This is the first one.
And the American public have ever seen. And that CNN story does not change the facts. There was a total and complete obliteration of Iran's nuclear facilities. And because of the president's strike, because of the precision of our United States military and this perfectly executed mission, Iran no longer has the capability to produce a nuclear weapon as imminently as they did prior to the strike. The American people and the world should be grateful for that. And it's disgusting that CNN and the New York Times are disparaging not just the president, but our brave men and women who helped conduct this highly successful operation.
What kind of consequence could the leaker face?
They should go to jail.
She says they should go to jail. Steve Witkoff, President Trump's special envoy negotiator, Steve Witkoff, he says it's treason. Folks, okay, if you are the guy that leaked this story, and I say leak because it's not true, he's whoever leaked this was leaking something that is a lie. So anyway, whoever that person was, whoever did that, whoever leaked this, they are screwed. Like, there's no other way to put that. They are totally screwed. You should not have done that. As you know, the Trump administration has been very aggressive against leakers, and they've had a lot of leakers over the last 6 months. Trump has been back in the White House. They've had leakers. Every single one of them has been apprehended, fired, held criminally accountable. Two of them, this is 4 months ago, got held criminally accountable for it. You do not want to be a leaker. You do not want to leak any of this information. Michael P. has gifted 10 memberships to the community. Michael P., thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Now, Carolyn Leavitt was not done. She has not spoken her piece yet. Take a look at this.
I'd like to take a step back and just acknowledge the history that has been made in the course of the last week, thanks to President Trump's strength. 5 days ago, the rogue Iranian regime possessed the capability to create a nuclear weapon that threatened the United States, the state of Israel, and the entire world. And presidents for decades have said, dating back to Bill Clinton, that Iran cannot possess a nuclear weapon. And because of the decisive leadership of President Trump and the skill and the excellence of our United States military, that imminent threat to the United States and the world has been demolished because of the successful operation on Saturday night. And not only that, but within the span of 48 hours, President Trump was able to turn around and negotiate a successful ceasefire between Israel and Iran, ending this war after just 12 days. No other president in history could have ever dreamed of such a success.
Ladies and gentlemen, give me a real quick yes or no in the live chat. Should President Trump receive the Nobel Peace Prize for getting, folks, Iran and Israel? Can you find two countries that hate each other more than these two guys? He got President Trump within 6 months. He's back in the White House. Trump and Iran to stop blowing each other up. Folks, if that does not warrant a damn Nobel Peace Prize, what do you have to do? What do you have to do to get one, right?
And that's exactly why the fake news media is now trying to demean and undermine the president. And we've seen this playbook be run before. You have hostile actors within the intelligence community who illegally leak bits and pieces of an intelligence assessment to push a fake news narrative. And that's what the CNN story was yesterday. And it's not a coincidence that it was written by the exact same CNN reporter who wrote the original story, falsely alleging that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation.
I did not know that. That is insane. That is news to me. So this author that leaked or wrote this, published this fake news baloney story about how the Iranian nuclear program is still operational. Trump's bombs didn't even do anything. This is the same author that published a story a couple years ago about how the Hunter Biden laptop was fake news. That is impressive. That is I did not know that. That is astounding.
The American public are smarter than this, and they should know the truth. President Trump completely and totally obliterated the capability of Iran to produce a nuclear weapon, and the world is safer today because of his historic effort.
All they do is lie. If their mouths are open, if their lips are yapping, they are lying. We see it time and time again. There's a reason why nobody trusts CNN or the Wall Street Journal involved in this as well. There's a reason why. Folks, you know, Fox News primetime in the evenings, they get 9 or 10 times more viewership every night than CNN. Nobody wants to watch CNN. Now, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe it was a different vibe, but these days they are so incredibly partisan. They peddle fake news baloney all day. Nobody wants anything to do with them. We have another one. Take a look at this. Carolyn Levitt was not happy about this.
This was a low-confidence preliminary intelligence assessment. The assessment itself said that it was not corroborated by anyone else in the intelligence community, and it has been disputed by not just the United States, the President, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, our Joint Chiefs, and our General Kane, who was incredibly successful in this mission on Saturday night. It was also disputed by both Israel and Iran. And CNN didn't care about that. The DIA themselves have now come out and said this was a preliminary report, and this CNN story got it completely wrong. But that reporter is a sheep, and she's a mouthpiece for people who don't like Donald Trump. And she only gave the White House an hour to respond. And that's, again, the same playbook we've seen the fake news media play time and time again. But this story has now been debunked widely by not just the United States, but also Iran and Israel as well.
President Trump debunk it. They might try to rebunk it, and then we're going to have to debunk it again. Debunk it, rebunk it, then debunk it again. But I'll tell you what, it has been debunked. Now, folks, I want to stress this again. I want you all to be aware of this. I want you to pay attention over what is going to happen. It's already happening, but I promise you it's going to keep happening. Consider the motives. If you are a member of the pro-war lobby, if you want America to be involved in the Middle East, if you want American boots on the ground, if you want more American bombs being dropped all over the place, what do you do right now? If you're like, I really want America to be intertwined in another Middle Eastern conflict, long-term, boots on the ground, what can I do? I'm going to try to push the narrative that, yes, Trump dropped these bombs, but that the bombs were ineffective, they didn't do anything, and, in fact, Iran still has a fully functioning nuclear weapons program. Because then you have the pretense, then you're pushing the narrative, then you're building this story which can act as the pretense for further American involvement, for American boots on the ground. You come out, you say, listen, yeah, Trump bombed, but the strike was ineffective. It did nothing. It didn't even destroy anything. So we need to go in. So we got to go in again. So now we need to deploy 200,000 American soldiers. So now we dropped 14 bombs. We need to drop 14,000 bombs. Okay, that, and you can already see it happening. That is what is all these leaks, all this fake news, baloney, fake lying narratives that you're seeing that we're talking about today. That is the motive behind all of this stuff. And so thank God President Trump and his administration are getting in front of all of this, because we cannot let this stuff spread. Now, I want to show you here. I'm going to read this. President Trump posted this earlier today, a couple hours ago. I'm going to read this on Truth Social. Natasha Bertrand is her name. She's the author, the journalist here. Should be fired from CNN. I watched her for 3 days doing fake news. She should be immediately reprimanded and then thrown out like a dog. Wow. We have a super chat. Michael P., thank you very much. There is a bigly expression of approval on Trump's face around 45 to 60 seconds into Hegseth jumping in today and going after the fake news. You know what? Now you want to make me go back and take a look at that. I will take a look at that. Michael, thank you very much for the super chat. Trump went on to say, she lied on the laptop from hell story. She tried to cover up the Hunter Biden laptop story. And now she lied on the nuclear sites story, attempting to destroy our Patriot pilots by making them look bad when, in fact, they did a great job and hit pay dirt. Total obliteration. She should not be allowed to work at fake news CNN. It's people like her who destroyed the reputation of a once great network. Her slant was so obviously negative. Besides, she doesn't have what it takes to be an on-camera correspondent. Not even close. Fire Natasha. Just so I know what she looks like. Who exactly are we mad at? Okay, so folks, this is the journalist in question here. Shouldn't have done that. Natasha, you really should not have done that. Bad news. Now, allegedly, during this, do I still have this clip up? We got a comment here when, I don't have it open anymore, so we got to move on. I apologize. But anyway, she should not have done that. That was a big mistake. Okay, and now, folks, earlier today, President Trump was at the NATO summit over in the Netherlands, in Europe, and he spoke a little bit about this. He took some questions about how this entire situation unfolded. Take a look.
As you know, last weekend, the United States successfully carried out a massive precision strike on Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities, and it was very, very successful. It was called obliteration. No other military on earth could have done it, and now this incredible exercise of American strength has paved the way for peace with a historic ceasefire agreement late Monday, and we call it the 12-day war. Spoke to a few people. I guess that just sounded like the right name.
War.
It was a 12-day war. And we think it's over. I don't think they're going to be going back at each other. I don't think so.
Here's what I will say, folks. President Trump has done his due diligence. He has, and it's not even his obligation. President Trump doesn't even need to solve every single geopolitical in the world. It's not his job. His job is to make America great again. He's doing it anyway. President Trump, out of the kindness of his heart, has taken it upon himself to try to help out Eastern Europe. He doesn't have to do that. Try to help out the Middle East. He doesn't have to do that. Middle East. Try to help out India versus Pakistan. He doesn't have to do that. He's doing this stuff because he's a nice guy, and he knows he's perhaps the one guy in the world that actually can leverage his position and use his skill set to actually make a difference. He doesn't have to do it, but he's doing it anyway. Okay? And so here's the deal. President Trump has dedicated an insane amount of time, energy, focus in solving other people's issues. Namely, right now we're talking about Israel and Iran. Okay, here's what I will say. If Israel and Iran if either one of, I don't even care who, if either one of them violates the ceasefire that President Trump has built, and he has built it, he's worked with Qatar, he's negotiated with Iran and Israel, got everyone involved. If anyone involved in this dilemma, Israel or Iran, violates the ceasefire that Trump has built himself from nothing, you know what? Good luck. It's on you. Can we say President Trump has done enough? If Israel violates it, if Iran violates it, if things start popping off again, you know what? That's on you. We have done enough. President Trump has done enough. He has done his negotiations. He has time, money, bombs. We just spent $250 million bombing Iran. It was $250 million, maybe more, maybe a third or $500 million, dropping these bombs, flying everybody out there, repositioning our naval assets in the region. Okay, whatever happens going forward, this is where I'm at. America's done. We have done our job. And it wasn't even our job to do. We did it anyway. We've done enough. Let's see what happens.
Not only have we dealt decisively with the critical threat of Iran's nuclear program, which was what I wanted. I said, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've said that for 15 years, long before I decided to do the political thing. But we've also reasserted the credibility of American deterrence, which is like no other. The people at NATO said there's never been anything. I rebuilt the entire military during.
Yes, he did. Really, nobody is really talking about this angle of the Iranian bombing that just took place. You know who this really sends a message to? For better or for worse, you agree, you don't, but this is the fact of the matter. You know what these bunker buster bombs did? These B-2 bomber Spirit stealth jets, you know what they did? They sent a very clear message to who? China. The entire Trump administration is focused on China. Almost all of Trump's foreign policy is focused on China. Our enemy of the 21st century is China. We are focused on China. China, at some point, that is, if we are not preparing for that, we are stupid. Okay, President Trump is talking a lot about China. He knows China is the threat of the next 100 years. What do these bombs do? They send a message to China. We can do this. You can't. We can bomb you from 50,000 feet in the air with 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs, and you can't do it. You can't do anything about it. Okay, you guys have all heard about the Three Gorges Dam. Okay, there's a massive dam complex, generating energy, hydroelectric in China. If this dam were to break, there would be a massive flood. They think it would kill millions of Chinese people that live down below the dam. Okay, it's one of China's big critical weak spots. China, when they see these bunker buster bombs dropping from these B-2 stealth planes from 50,000 feet in the air, nobody can even detect them. Nobody even has the capacity to do that. President Trump is thinking, or I'm sorry, China is thinking, man, I don't want to mess with those guys. Imagine one of those bunker buster bombs falls on top of this dam. Okay, not good.
During my first term, and we have a great military. We have great generals. I got to know the good ones and the bad ones. We kept the good ones.
We kept the good ones, and now they're. You can't deny. Listen, regardless of whether or not you think Trump should have or shouldn't have bombed Iran and dropped these bombs, everybody has to acknowledge this was a clean operation. Even if you think, I think President Trump shouldn't have done that. I wish he didn't do that. Okay, fine, whatever, fair. However, this operation, you can't knock the operation. The operation was clean. They pulled this off. It was executed to perfection. Couldn't have been done better. Marco Rubio chimed in on this. What does he have to say?
So in Esfahan, there was this conversion site, which is how you turn this metal into something that's useful. That's wiped out. You can rebuild anything that's destroyed. You could if you wanted to, but it's completely wiped out. And so they can't do that today. Beyond that, all of the support structures around it as well. In Natanz, which is also an underground facility, that had already been destroyed. Basically, the Israelis have put a lot of damage on it. And then the United States went in with 2 additional heavy munitions that penetrated into the ground and did more damage. So it was already in bad shape and unusable, and now it's worse off. The hard one, the one that was really difficult, is Fordo, because...
What in the hell? This woman is a member of the Valerian, the High Valerian bloodline. She's going to hop on a freaking dragon after this interview's over. Sorry, my bad.
It's buried underneath a mountain at about 200 to 300 meters underground, and meters or feet, I forget, 300 underground. It was deep. And there's no doubt in our minds it's very significant, substantial, lasting damage was done to their program. We will learn more and more about it, but the baseline is real damage was done. Of that, we're very confident. We dropped 12 of these things into these holes. I mean, it's not like we just did a couple and see how it went.
So there's Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, coming out and saying, listen, these bunkers are blown to smithereens. They hammered this point home. They reiterated it. In fact, we're going to hear about some of the intelligence, how do we know this? But let's keep on going through this here. Marco Rubio further breaks it down.
The goal the president set out was 3 nuclear sites. He targeted them. He says, I want a one-off campaign in which we go in, hit 3 nuclear sites, hit them hard, and get out without any loss of life. And the mission was achieved, and without any escalation. And the mission was achieved. The truth of the matter is that happened on Saturday night. By Monday night, we had a ceasefire, so 48 hours later. So not only did this bold move by the president, and he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for taking this bold move, not only did this bold move have impact, but I actually think it helped end the conflict. That it allowed Israel to say, okay, now the objectives that we wanted to see out of this operation have been achieved. And I think the president deserves a lot of credit. He had a defined mission. Said, this is what we're going to do. We're hitting 3 targets. We're not hitting regime people. We're not trying to overthrow the government. We're not looking to invade. We're going to hit our problem with Iran is with the nuclear program. We're going to hit the 3 sites that we've been negotiating over, and then we're going to move off the mark. And that's
now, of course, one of the big, massive concerns amongst us on the right, amongst America First, Make America Great Again, Republican Trump voters, Trump supporters, was, okay, this was talk of the town about a week ago. If Trump drops the bomb, where does it end? It could be a ceasefire, it could be a de-escalation, and that could be the end of it. Or, worst case scenario, you have 2003 is repeating itself again. We have boots on the ground Middle East invasion. You have got the war on terror 2.0. You've got young Americans getting blown up in the Iranian hillsides outside of Tehran, and it's catastrophic. Okay, it puts our country into more debt. Young Americans are getting their legs blown off. Nobody wanted that. That was one of the big concerns. What, after you drop the bomb, what happens next? Okay, well, guess what? In President Trump's credit, it seems so far, it's only been 2 or 3 days, so give it time. Things could go terrible in the future. You never know. But Seems like he has effectively bombed them into submission. The term that comes to mind is you've got the carrot and you've got the rod. Okay, you can motivate people two ways. You can motivate people. Is that the right term? You can try to, motivate people by giving them a carrot as an incentive, or if they don't respond to the carrot, you smack them. You hit them with the rod. You beat them. Okay. And so now we have, over the last decade, we have seen decade exactly. We have seen two approaches from two different presidents. Well, we've seen three approaches from three different presidents, how to handle Iran, how to handle the Iranian nuclear enrichment program. Okay. Let's start with Joe Biden. Joe Biden, for 4 years, his approach to handling Iran was to take a nap and do nothing and eat ice cream. That did not work out. Okay, rewind a little bit. We had Barack Obama in 2015. This is the infamous Barack Obama nuclear deal with Iran. He gave them pallets of cash, billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. He said, hey, listen, you need to stop enriching uranium. Don't do it, please. Hey, please don't do it. Please don't do it. And we're going to pay you not to do it. Okay, well, that didn't work either. As we now know, that did not work either. So we tried the carrot. We tried taking a nap. And now President Trump broke out the rod. He broke out the rod, and what that rod looked like was a bunch of 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs. And so far, I don't want to speak too soon. It seems as if the rod has worked, okay? And, there were a lot of concerns, but it seems so far things have worked, at least. Now, I want to break down the intelligence here. This is the big topic of the day. You have this fake news CNN article saying that Trump's bombing raid didn't do anything, that Iran can still enrich their uranium, and it was all for nothing. And we need to get even more. Now we need to get even more involved. Now we need to go we got to go in even harder. Well, this is what I love to see. We have so many reports of the Trump admin and also foreign intelligence agencies coming out and saying, actually, that's baloney. Actually, we know for a fact their program is shut down. This is our director of national intelligence 4 hours ago, earlier today. Take a look at this. She said, Tulsi Gabbard, new intelligence confirms what President Trump has stated numerous times. Iran's nuclear facilities have been destroyed. If the Iranians chose to rebuild, they would have to rebuild all three facilities, Natanz, Fordow, and Esfahan, entirely, which would take years to do. Also, as they are if they try to rebuild, as they are rebuilding, if they try to do that, it would be public and we would know it, and we would have satellite imagery, and so it wouldn't be a surprise. We could see it coming from years in advance. The propaganda machine has deployed their usual tactic: selectively release portions of illegally leaked classified intelligence assessments, intentionally leaving out the fact that the assessment was written with, quote, low confidence, to try to undermine President Trump's decisive leadership and the brave servicemen and women who flawlessly executed a truly historic mission to keep the American people safe and secure. So, folks, once again, the reason why you are seeing this narrative be pushed, that, well, they still have a program, well, Trump's bombing raid was not effective, I'm gonna beat you guys over the head with this today. The reason why this narrative is being pushed is because there are people in this country and outside of this country that want American boots on the ground in the Middle East again. They want a war. They want a Middle Eastern war again. They want a war on terror 2.0. They want young Americans marching through the hillsides in Iran. They want that. And they will do. It's people in the country. There's a lobby for this. There's a lobby outside of the country that wants us to get involved. And the reason why you're seeing this narrative that, well, that Iran actually has a program is because this is what they've decided this is the best way to try to get us involved again after President Trump is trying to get us out. Okay. So do not get that twisted. Now, we heard from our own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, what she had to say. The nuclear facilities are destroyed. It would take them years to recover, etc. If they choose to do so. Now, take a look at this. President Trump shares with us information from the Atomic Energy Commission of Israel, a different agency. But first, I want to go over the super chat here. Al, thank you, Al. Thank you very much. That's a $20 super chat. He says, I'm an Iranian American. I love your content. I'm so sorry for your loss. It's evident how much you loved your German Shepherd. Mine passed away 4 months ago. He was my best friend. I hope your memories of her hate. Thank you very much. It's still, maybe I'm not going to talk about that too much today, and we're gonna stick to the news because it's a little bit tough to talk about. But thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate that, and that means a lot. And likewise, back at you. Thank you. Also, we have Bishop here with the super chat. He says it's carrot and stick. By the way, it goes along with the walk softly. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Bishop. I appreciate that. Thank you, folks, for the super chats. Thank you very much. This is what President Trump shared with us earlier today, coming out of Israel. This is the Israeli intelligence. Take a look.
A letter just came in, and a statement came in from the Atomic Energy Commission of Israel. And I just wondered, this is an official letter, and they're very serious people, as you know. The devastating U.S. strike on Fordo destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility totally inoperable. It was devastated. We assess that the American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities has set back Iran's ability to develop nuclear weapons for many years to come. This achievement can continue indefinitely if Iran does not get access to nuclear material, which it won't. It's so sad that whole thing had to go. But I just want to thank our pilots. You know, they were maligned and treated very bad, demeaned by fake news CNN, which is back there, believe it or not, wasting time, nobody's watching them. So they're just wasting a lot of time, wasting my time.
And you know what? He's pretty much right about that. Now, once again, the reason why I play this clip here is because this is information. This is a damage assessment on these Iranian nuclear facilities coming from the Atomic Energy Commission of Israel. We're hearing from the American intelligence apparatus, from our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. The nuclear facilities are gone. They have been blown up. They are shut down. If they want to rebuild them, that's if they want to rebuild them. It's going to take them years to do that. That's if. But right now they are gone. We hear that over here in America from our intelligence apparatus. From Israel, from the Atomic Energy Commission of Israel, what do they say? They say the same thing. They echo the same sentiment. Now, let's talk about the Israel-Iran ceasefire. Earlier today at the NATO summit, President Trump talked about that. He got asked a direct question about that. Take a look.
You just said you believe the conflict between Israel and Iran is over. What makes you so confident it is? And what do you do if it isn't?
Because I dealt with both, and they're both tired, exhausted. They fought very, very hard and very viciously, very violently, and they were both satisfied to go home and get out. And can it start again? I guess someday it can. It could maybe start soon. I think a big telltale sign was when, as you know, Iran somewhat, by not much, violated the ceasefire. And Israel had the planes going out that morning, and there were a lot of them, 52 of them. And I said, you got to get them back. And they brought them back. They didn't do anything. They brought them back. It was very good. I thought it was amazing, actually. They have...
In fact, nobody is talking about what he's talking about from this angle we're about to go over. Okay. There was a ballistic missile over North Israel. We actually don't know where it came from. This is after the ceasefire. The Israelis say Iran launched it. Iran actually denies launching any missiles. They said they don't know what they're talking about. But anyway, there was a missile allegedly flying over northern Israel. And so this is after the ceasefire happened. Israel says, well, Iran violated the ceasefire. They scrambled 52 fighter jets. They were going to go blow up Iran. They were on their way over. Trump got on the phone. He called up Netanyahu. He's issuing public truth social posts. And he's saying, turn around. You are not going to do this. Shut it down. Go home. The bombing is over. That was President Trump. Can we talk about how alpha that is? You want to talk about alpha male? Okay, guys. President Trump is a commander-in-chief of the American military, not the Israeli military. He can't tell them what to do. He did anyway. And you know what? They listened. Okay, Netanyahu scrambled these jets. He told them to go bomb Iran again. They thought the ceasefire was violent. President Trump said, no, nope. Hey, I'm the freaking president. Of the United States. I'm the president of the world, Netanyahu, okay? I'm in charge here. Tell the fighter jets to go home, okay? Otherwise, we're going to have a big problem. Just think about that. President Trump called off a freaking aerial strike that another nation's military was carrying out. Trump called it off. Trump took command effectively of the Israeli military and said, go home. Hey, president of the world here, it's me, President Trump. We're calling this off. Go home. Okay? And then they did it. They actually did it. Nobody has mentioned that. That's a big deal. That sends a message here, okay? David Bell has a super chat. Have you talked about King Charles in Ukraine? British are going to donate drones for... No, we haven't talked about that at all, and it's actually not a part of today's broadcast either. I've got nothing for you on that. But hey, I appreciate that super chat. Thank you very much. I'm going to finish this question here about the ceasefire. Take a look.
Fought a hell of a war. They fought very hard. I think the war ended actually when we hit the various nuclear sites with the planes. And I just hope you people can give these pilots, these are the best pilots in the world. They're the best shots in the world. They call them shots. That's what they are. And wait a minute. And I just hope you can give them the respect they deserve, because they came home to fake news. And like, oh, gee, there was hardly any damage. The things are decimated. So, but I think, no, I think they're very much finished. I think Israel's going to get back to doing what they do, and I think that Iran's going to get back. You know, Iran has a huge advantage. They have great oil, and they can do things. I don't see them getting back involved in the nuclear business anymore. I think they've had it. They've been at it for 20 years, and I don't see that happening either. Now, if it does, we're always there. It won't be me. It'll be somebody else, but we're there. We'll have to do something about it.
And there it is. And so, listen, this is a little voice, 1% of a tiny voice in the back of my head as an American. I'm worried about this. You know, I don't want to be too negative. I don't want to be a doomer. I don't want to doom and gloom here for a moment, but I will express this little micro concern that I have. Right now, the Israeli intelligence and the American intelligence, echoed by Tulsi Gabbard, they've come out and said, okay, so right now, the Iranian nuclear program is obliterated, eviscerated, annihilated, whatever type of aided you want. It's gone for now. But if they want to rebuild it, they could rebuild it in a couple years. It would take a couple years. Okay, that's an if, because they might not do it. But if they do, it'd be a couple years. Well, folks, a couple of years, President Trump is no longer in the White House. President Trump is going to be gone in 3.5 years. His time is up. We're going to have a new president. Who knows? Could be Republican, could be Democrat. Could we have a repeat of this entire situation 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now? If Iran decides to rebuild nuclear enrichment program, it'd take them a couple years, 4, 5, 6 years. They got a new one, and now we have a new president. And maybe the next president we have doesn't have the wherewithal that Trump has. Maybe they're not going to be able to handle that situation 5 years from now, whoever follows him up, in the same way that President Trump has just handled it. So for me, I'm kind of like, I feel safe. We're safe now. Things are fine now, but it's kind of like it's a little bit of a cliffhanger, you know? What about 5 years from now? What about 10 years from now? We are safe in the moment, but what's going to happen on the next episode? You know, it's one of those things. We might have President AOC 5 years from now, God forbid. Who knows? This country is going that way. We're going to talk a little bit about that later today. But anyway, okay, all that matters is now things are looking fine enough. We have a big super chat here. I want to take a look at this. It says, this is from Chad L. Seems fake. No boots on site for verification. No traces of nuclear materials. Sat images of equipment moving material prior. Where did the existing material go? Yeah, listen, you're free to think whatever you want. I'm going to trust what I'm hearing right now. But hey, I appreciate that super chat. I think they probably shut it down. That's what I have reason to believe. But I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. Now, we also have, actually, on that exact note, on that note right there about moving material, where did it go? The trucks were going in and out beforehand. What happened? Who knows what they were moving, where it went? Take a look at this.
Is there any indication from U.S. intelligence that Iran was able to move any material?
No, just the opposite. We think we hit them so hard and so fast they didn't get to move. And if you knew about that material, it's very hard and very dangerous to move. It's called, in many people, they call it dust, but it's very, very heavy. It's very, very hard to move. And they were way down, you know, they're 30 stories down. They're literally 30, 35 stories down underground. Oh yeah,
That
we
is
think
insane.
we think it's covered with granite, concrete, and steel.
Well, you know, here's a let's kind of think through this here for a moment. We know for a fact President Trump is unwilling to allow Iran to have a nuclear enrichment program. We know that he will not let them do that. He's been talking about this publicly for at least 14 years, maybe more. He's been consistent for over a decade on that. And he just dropped a bunch of bombs proving that he's serious about this. So, for better or for worse, whether you like it or you don't like it, if Iran had moved their machinery or equipment or uranium elsewhere, I think Trump would just find it and then go bomb it again. Don't you think? Like the fact that Trump is saying it's gone, it's done, we know he's serious about not letting them have that. We know he is dead serious about this. So if he had any reason to believe that this equipment was anywhere else or it had been moved somewhere else, I think he would send out these B-2 bombers and go bomb them again. I think he would. That's my bet. But hey, so that's why I think, you know, it makes sense. I believe Trump when he says this. I believe the American intelligence. I believe the Israeli intelligence. I think it is probably gone. I think it's probably blown up. Now, Steve Bannon weighs in on this. Take a look at this. Let's see what he says.
The 12-day war is over. I mean, he was adamant. Boom, over. I did what we had to do, got it done. I promised for, I think he said 15 years to do that. It's obliterated. We're moving on. And there's going to be tremendous pressure put on President Trump's administration, boots on the ground, regime change. You watch. The Israel first crowd over at Fox is going to be relentless, and we're going to make sure we're here to blunt it. That's why they're all worked up. They're
not a fan of Fox News, I guess.
We shut down their regime change, which they wanted to go to.
So, and I mean, in essence, this is kind of the idea that we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes here, is that there are people, there are political action groups in America, outside of America, that actually do want regime change. They want regime change. This bombing of the nuclear enrichment facilities is not enough for them. Yeah, that's great. Now they can't make nukes, but also the Ayatollah's got to go. We need regime overhaul. Definitely 100%. We've got a lot of people here in America that are pushing for that. A couple names that come off the top of my head. Lindsey Graham was talking explicitly about regime change, recommending that President Trump facilitate regime change in Iran. Okay, this is before the bombings took place, at least. Lindsey Graham. Ted Cruz was saying the very same thing. Senator Ted Cruz, we need regime change. We're hoping President Trump facilitates regime change. Mark Levin on Fox News. Fox News host Mark Levin. He wanted regime change. A lot of people, listen, and those are just three big names, okay? A lot of people in this country, there's a lobby. Bombing the nuclear facilities is not enough. We got to have regime change. President Trump very clearly does not care about that. He doesn't care about that. President Trump says the Ayatollah can remain in power, the IRGC, they can do what they want, whatever, don't care. They can say death to America all they want, doesn't matter. They just can't have a nuke. They just can't have a nuke. They can march in their streets and have riots in downtown Tehran and say, death to America, we hate America, jihad, whatever. They just can't have a nuke. President Trump has been very explicit about that. And that's why he did what he did. And that's why now he's done. That's why now he's stepping away. Okay? Now, we have a long little piece of commentary. Well, it's 4.5 minutes long from, I like this guy a lot. His name is Victor Davis Hanson. You folks probably know about this as well, about this guy as well. And President Trump, the reason I want to show this is because President Trump actually reposted this a couple hours ago, 2 or 3 hours ago, on his own Truth Social page. So I figure if President Trump reposted this, I want to take a look at it. Let's see what Victor Davis Hanson had to say about this entire situation.
Hoover Institute Senior Fellow, VDH. All right, VDH.
Can I full screen this?
Hoover Institute Senior Fellow, VDH. All right, VDH. CNN is saying the bombs we dropped don't work. Is that believable?
Baloney.
No, the subtext to all of this is the more hysterical the left gets, the more they talk of impeachment, performance art, disruptions, potty mouth videos, all of that stuff, it's in direct proportion to Trump's success. They don't know what to do because they can't pigeonhole him. Unions like him. Wall Street doesn't like him. That doesn't make sense to them. He's bombing one day and the next day he's forging a peace. He's not a right-wing bogeyman that they can pigeon. He's a transactional realist, and he's successful. And the more successful he is, the poverty of their no ideas agenda is apparent. And then the other thing is, we've lived in a 50-year myth, a Potemkin myth about the Iranians, that they had this indomitable army and Hezbollah was these goose-stepping Nazi killers. And, you know, whether it was the Marine barracks or killing Americans in Iraq, we were always told you can't do this to Iran because they're indomitable. And in 12 days, Israelis blew up that myth, and Trump put the coup de grace on it.
I have to say I need to disagree a little bit. And by the way, what I'm about to say, I'm obviously not endorsing or showing whatever. Do not be weird about this. First off, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis have been absolutely rocked and obliterated and annihilated. He's right about that. Everybody has been scared of them for forever, for decades. They have just been completely castrated over the last year or two. They ended up actually being what I would call effectively pushovers. They really did not. Israel dominated them. There's no doubt about that. Now, Iran, by the way, I do not endorse Iran. I'm not an Iran guy. I'm looking just like military, you know, who did what point of view here. Iran did a pretty damn good job of holding their own in this recent skirmish, this 12-day war. Iran, I think, in fact, I would speculate that Israel is like, whoa, we thought that they were going to roll over and they didn't. Iran did a lot of damage, for better or for worse. I'm not even commenting on that. The fact of the matter is, just like military analysis, right? Iran did a lot of damage. I would suspect that Iran was able to do more damage than anybody thought they would. In fact, I would go so far as to say this ceasefire that President Trump negotiated with Iran and Israel is just as much to help out Iran as it is Israel. This ceasefire is helping get Israel out of this mess. Israel was taking a lot of damage. That's just undeniable, okay? Undeniable. So this ceasefire is beneficial to Israel just as much as it is Iran. I'm telling you, they did. Iran, I think, did better than anybody thought they would.
They have no air defenses. They have no air force. They have no top physicists. As you said, the top leadership is in hiding. The generals have been killed off. The Hezbollah is a shambles. Maimed, dead, or in hiding. There is no Hamas, really. The Houthis want to make a deal. There's no Syria anymore. There's no platform for their supplies. Russia's been kicked out. This is just a miraculous development. It's a whole new Middle East. And here the left can't even appreciate what's happened. Donald Trump and Israel exposed that this was a 50-year myth that frightened and terrified us for no reason. They were like the Italian army in 1939 that everybody said, you can't cross Mussolini, he's going to destroy us. And then it was a joke. It's the same thing. And we got to take a deep breath and appreciate the extent of this achievement.
Well, hold up, pause. Why have we been fear-mongering over Iran for 50 years? Why? Why has that been the narrative? Why have we been fear-mongering over Iran, as he said, for the last 50 years? To serve as a pretense to invade Iran and overthrow the regime. That's why. Almost all of the rhetoric regarding Iran for the last 50 years was designed specifically to facilitate direct American involvement in the Middle East to get us to overthrow the regime. That is why. That is why we've had 50 years of that type of rhetoric around Iran. And that's why we are still seeing it today with this fake news, CNN, Wall Street Journal, baloney bullcrap. Okay? It's because we have a lobby in this country. There are people in this country and out of this country. They want American boots on the ground. They want us, I'm not saying Iran is good. I don't like Iran. I don't like the Iranian regime. That being said, on top of that, there has been a massive effort to create this boogeyman scenario in order to get America directly involved. That is just an obvious fact.
They have remade the Middle East in 12 days, and I still don't think people can digest it. And to the degree they can, they're angry that Trump did it. And they hate him. They hate him almost as much as they hate Netanyahu. And partly it's because they were both very successful.
Mythbusters and bunker busters. That's a good combination. VDH,
yeah.
If this is something Democrat and Republican administrations had wanted to do for a very long time, eliminate this nuclear program, and Trump finally did it, and you know, we expect more damage assessments to come in as we get more spies on the ground. Why can't the Democrats just say, God bless our soldiers? I mean, at least give them credit. You don't have to give it to the commander-in-chief. I know that's very difficult. I had a hard time doing it when Barack Obama took out Osama bin Laden. But at least you say, you know, way to go, Air Force.
I'll tell you why. Okay? This is maybe contrary to popular belief, but it is a fact. The members of the far progressive left, they want war just as much as our most war-hungry, war-hawk neocons, rhinos here on the right. Okay, I know maybe you haven't thought about that. The people on the progressive left, they are just as hungry for war in the Middle East, just as much as our war-hungry neocon rhinos are over here on the right side of the aisle. Okay, so you'll notice how is the left, how is the progressive left navigating this entire conversation, this entire dynamic regarding President Trump dropping these bombs? They're not condemning the bombs. They're not condemning bombing Iran. That's not what they have an issue with, but they still have to find a way to be anti-Trump. So they say, yeah, Trump bombed Iran. We love that. We like that. We like that. But we have to find a way to hate President Trump. So what are we going to do? What we're going to do is try to say that he did it unconstitutionally, or that he didn't include the Democrat congressional representatives along with him. He didn't include us in the plan. He didn't give us the information beforehand. So notice what they critique. They're critiquing, they're saying, listen, he violated the Constitution. He's not allowed to bomb. He didn't include Congress. He didn't give us notice. They're not mad at him for bombing. They are mad at him for the way he did the bombing. Okay? Pay attention to that. That's a very important thing here. Let me see. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that super chat. Derek, have you ever thought about multi-boxing on Rumble? There's people like the watch the stream, but maybe not on YouTube. I'm not sure. That's not really something I'm going to worry about right now. But yeah, maybe someday we can do that. Maybe someday we can. And also, thank you. Thank you very much for that super chat. I appreciate that a lot. Maybe someday.
Way to go, U.S. Navy.
Yeah, but they don't appreciate what the Pentagon and the military's for, which is battlefield efficacy. Remember, under their leadership the last 4 years, we were down 45,000 troops, recruitments. And there was a reason for that. The demographic that goes to god-awful places like Fallujah and Helmand province and dies at twice their numbers in the demographic, they were demonizing and they were pushing DEI down their throat. If they didn't get a vaccination, they kicked them out. They had no affinity for it. And that demographic feels now that it's a fair level playing field, and they want to go back. They don't think there'll be a Kabul anymore. There's going to be deterrence. And they don't like that. They don't like what the Pentagon is designed for, and that is to defend America and restore and enhance deterrence. For them, it's a social institution that doesn't have the problems with Congress or debates or shouting. They can just use the chain of command and bam, 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 DEI, transgendered, women in pregnant flight suits. They can get all their social agenda through the Pentagon that way by obsequious generals that are Washington totems.
Listen, folks, you need to pay attention right now. You need to pay attention to the people that are mad at President Trump right now. There are multiple types of people that are mad at President Trump, and they are expressing that anger. They are saying that they are angry for different reasons, for this reason or that reason, but really, fundamentally, why some people are mad at Trump right now is because he's not getting us into a war. Very clearly, President Trump does not want to do that. He's not going to do that. On the campaign trail in 2024, maybe 8-9 months ago, President Trump said, and I quote, the defining characteristic, if you vote for me, the defining characteristic of my second term as president will be not the wars I get us in, but the wars I keep us out of. He campaigned on that. That was a mic drop moment. If you vote for me, if President Trump here, if you put me back in the White House, okay, what will define my presidency will be not the wars I get us in, but the wars I keep us out of. There are a lot of people that are mad that he is sticking to that. There are a lot of people that are mad that Trump is not getting us involved in another war. There are a lot of people in this country and out of this country, they want us in another war. They saw that bomb drop. They saw President Trump drop these bunker buster bombs, and they were wringing their hands. They were saying, all right, we're going to have our war. All right, America's going back in the Middle East. All right, we're going back in. Just what we want. President Trump said, no, that's not why people voted for me. We're not, guess what? We are not doing that. Like I said, like President Trump said, what will define his second term is the wars he keeps us out of, not the wars he gets us involved in. And so it's curious because you've got people on the right that are mad that President Trump is not getting us involved in a war. You've got people on the left that are mad that President Trump is not getting us involved in the war. You've also got these perpetual Trump haters that are on the right, technically, but their role as a member of the right is just sort of to like critique or counter-signal every single thing President Trump does. There were a lot of people on the right that have been doomsday prophesizing, saying, oh, President Trump is going to get us involved in World War III. Oh, this is why, yeah, I'm on the right, but I don't like President Trump. A lot of those people have now been proven wrong, at least so far. President Trump has been vindicated. He has signaled he's not going to get us involved in the war. And all of the term I'll use is plan trusters, people that have trusted President Trump, people that have been trusting President Trump's plan and the way he's handling these situations have been vindicated as well. President Trump very clearly has no objective of getting us involved in a war. Anybody that has been trusting the plan has been vindicated so far. At least and you know what? I hope it stays that way. Now, we're going to move on to another topic here, folks. Okay? Take a look at this. 33-year-old Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani has just defeated Andrew Cuomo in New York City's Democratic primary, and now he is expected to become the New York City mayor on November 4th, meaning New York City is screwed. Is he all the way there yet? No, he still has more to go. He still has to beat the independent. There's an independent and a Republican candidate he's got to beat, but he has become the official Democratic candidate for the New York mayor race. And before we move on here, I want to take a look at these super chats. We have real quick 2 super chats. Let me take a look here. Hey, Eric, thank you. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate that a lot. Stephanie Wilson, thank you for the $10. They are mad because Trump did not allow them to protect their assets in Iran and Israel. The traders are screaming. There's just a lot of it has really shown how many people were just desperate for another war in the Middle East, both on the left and on the right. And Trump's not giving it to him, and that's why we voted for him. Okay, folks, take a look at this. Democrat representative warns socialist Zoran Mamdani is too extreme, quote, too extreme to lead New York City. Representative Laura Gillen, who is a Democrat rep from New York, she's a Democrat, warned that Democratic socialist Zoran Mamdani is, quote, too extreme to lead New York City after he led the city's Democratic mayoral primary. Andrew Cuomo dropped out. This guy is the guy. He is the Democrat guy. He's the Democrat candidate for New York City mayor. These are Democrats have decided to support. Socialist Zoran Mamdani is too extreme to lead New York City, Gillen said. His entire campaign has been built on unachievable promises and higher taxes, which is the last thing New York needs. Beyond that, Mr. Mamdani has called to defund the police and has demonstrated a deeply disturbing pattern of unacceptable anti-Semitic comments, which stoke hate at a time when anti-Semitism is skyrocketing, Gillen continued. He is the absolute wrong choice for New York. Okay, I'm going to just guess that Laura Gillen is Jewish, probably. Now, I want to show you, this is a little bit of maybe soon to be Mayor Zoran Mamdani. I want to show you some of the stuff he's posted on the internet over the last couple of years. He said, and I quote, Queer liberation means defund the police. Okay, so he wants to defund the police in order to liberate the queers. Okay, and then he clearly said, no, we want to defund the police. Very clear. He said, we want to defund the police. You have another one here. This is what he said. From coast to coast right now, mayors and governors of deep blue cities and states are collaborating with violent right-wing government to enforce curfews, round up protesters, and run them down in the street. Defund the NYPD. He's not a fan of the NYPD or any police in the entire nation. We have another one here. We'll have to wait to see if our lead holds. But to be leading, even amidst a global pandemic, makes it clear another world really is possible. Together, we can tax the rich, heal the sick, house the poor, and defund the police to build a socialist New York City. New York socialist city. We have another one here. He says, we can't reform a system working exactly as designed to control black, brown, and poor New Yorkers. We need to defund the police, get them out of matters they have no business in, free the thousands of locked up unjustly, and invest the savings in those most impacted by state violence. So what he's saying is not only do we have to defund the police, but all of our systems, all of our government systems are designed specifically to keep black and brown and minority people down. He's saying that America is just this white supremacist society. And I'm not exactly sure that is the case. In fact, I know that is not the case. So anyway, this guy has a big chip on his shoulder. He's obviously racist. He is a communist. And beyond that, now he is the Democratic primary candidate. He is the Democrat candidate. We're going to keep on reading here. The statement from Gillen we just heard from Gillen. The statement from Gillen comes after former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo conceded to Mamdani on Tuesday night after Mamdani held on to the lead in the primary. Cuomo said, tonight was not our night. Tonight was Assemblyman Mamdani's night, and put together a great campaign, and he touched young people and inspired them and moved them and got them to come out and vote. With 93% of the votes in, Mamdani led with 43.5% of the vote. Cuomo had 36.4%. Wow, he was actually not even that close. New York City Comptroller Brad Lander came in third with 11% of the vote. I wonder, I actually don't know anything about Brad. Maybe he was a spoiler. Maybe if he had not been in the race here, then more people would have voted for Cuomo. That could be the case. I'm going to look into him later. While Cuomo has conceded after Mamdani led his opponents in the race, the outcome will still be decided by a ranked choice count, according to the he's got it. He's going to have it. In the words of Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible until it is done, Mamdani wrote in a post on X. Well, it's fitting that Mamdani here is quoting Nelson Mandela because Mandela was a communist terrorist. Everybody always talks about Mandela getting out of prison and what he did after he got out of prison. Nobody ever talks about why Nelson Mandela went to prison in the first place. Do you guys know why Nelson Mandela was in prison in the first place? It's because he was a communist terrorist who was killing people. In fact, they called it the South African necklace, I think is what it was called. Him and his friends, I'm not kidding, they would take car tires off of a car, put them around somebody's neck, and then light the tire on fire, incinerating their head. That's what they did. And so he went to jail for a very long time. He was a terrorist. He was a domestic terrorist. He was a communist and a terrorist. And then he got out, and then he's this hero. And then he's the hero coming out of prison because now apartheid is over, etc., for different reasons. But anyway, no, Nelson Mandela was not a good guy. Everybody acts like he was a great guy. Nelson Mandela was not a good guy at all. He was a terrorist. He was killing people. Anyway, so he's quoting Nelson Mandela. I am honored to be your Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York City. There's the tweet in the words of Nelson Mandela. Mamdani has suggested creating city-run grocery stores, pointing out that people in the city are struggling with the cost of groceries. So what is this? Folks, what is it called when the government starts taking over private enterprise? What is that? There's a word for that. What is that? This is called communism. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores whose mission is to lower prices, not price gouge, Mamdani said in a video. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you. Senator Bernie Sanders, IVT, independent from Vermont, endorsed Mamdani, stating that, quote, new leadership who would, quote, stand up to powerful corporate interests is needed. At this dangerous moment in history, status quo policies aren't good enough, said Bernie Sanders. We need new leadership that is prepared to stand up to powerful corporate interests and fight for the working class. Zohran Mamdani is providing that vision. He is the best choice for New York City mayor. So, folks, if this guy wins, he hasn't won yet. He is the Democratic candidate. He won the Democrat primary. He was competing against Cuomo. Cuomo dropped out. He lost. So now he's competing against an independent and a Republican. He's got two rivals now. Former New York City mayor, or maybe current, I think actually running again, is now an independent. Mayor Adams, he actually left the Democratic Party. Now he's independent. And then also the Republican candidate on the Republican side of the aisle, what is his name? I forget his name, but he's the leader of that. He wears the red hat. He's the leader of this group that has helped protect the New York City subway systems. What is this guy's name? Mamdani's Republican opponent. We've actually seen him before. His name is. Curtis Sliwa. This guy, yeah, he's the founder of the Guardian Angels. You guys have seen this guy before. That's right. It is this guy right here. And so, frankly, actually, before today, I had no idea this guy was a Republican, but he is. So this guy has been running a volunteer organization to help protect the New York City subway systems for decades. He put together a volunteer group they're called Guardian Angels, and they walk around the subways. They're sort of like vigilantes almost. They help stop crime and violence going on in the subway, in the New York City subway systems. I mean, that's a great thing to do. That really, you talk about giving back to your community. That is what this looks like. And he has a cool hat too. So good for him. So you know what? Hopefully he wins, I guess. Hey, if you live in New York, you got to vote for that guy. He actually has done something tangible to help make that city great again. Now, Donald Trump chimed in on this entire situation. Donald Trump said, it has officially happened. The Democrats have crossed the line. Zohran Mamdani, a 100% communist lunatic, and that is true, has just won the Democratic primary and is on his way to becoming mayor. We've had radical lefties before, but this is getting a little bit ridiculous, says President Trump. He looks terrible. His voice is grating. He's not very smart. He's got AOC +3, dummies, all of them backing him. And even our great Palestinian senator, crying Chuck Schumer, is groveling over him. Yes, this is a big moment in the history of our country. It is so funny to me. Every time President Trump calls Chuck Schumer a Palestinian, I don't know. It is the funniest thing in the world. God, I love that he does that. That is so funny. President Trump also called Mamdani ugly. He looks terrible. He looks terrible, and his voice is terrible. Everything about he's a communist lunatic. He's ugly. He sounds terrible. He's a communist. He's a communist lunatic, and the Palestinian Chuck Schumer loves him. And also AOC and all of her dumb idiot friends support him also. He's got to go. He's a communist. I love President Trump. I love President Trump. Okay, anyway, So that's what he said. And then he had a little follow-up here. He said, this is maybe a little bonus here. I have an idea for the Democrats to bring them back into play. After years of being left out in the cold, including suffering one of the greatest losses in history in 2024, the presidential election, the Democrats should nominate low IQ candidate Jasmine Crockett for president, and AOC plus 3 should be respectively vice president and 3 high-level members of the cabinet. Adding together with our future communist mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, and our country is really screwed. So, President Trump has officially given his endorsement to the 2028 presidential ticket, Jasmine Crockett, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. President Trump has given his endorsement. He has signed off on that. He wants them to run Jasmine Crockett, who's perhaps one of the lowest IQ hood rat idiots in all of American history. Have you guys ever heard Jasmine Crockett? She sounds like 85 IQ, 80 IQ. She can barely string together a coherent sentence. She like how can I just be a little bit silly here? How is she in Congress? Who voted for her? Who voted? I get AOC, okay? I understand some people would vote for AOC. Not that I would, of course not, but I understand. I know that some other people would. Who is voting for Jasmine Crockett? Who's voting for her? I don't get it. I understand AOC. I understand Ilhan Omar. There's 10 million Somalian people in Minnesota. A bunch of Somalian people voted for her. I get it. Who is voting for Jasmine Crockett? I just don't get it. But anyway, so this is our Congress now. This is what it is. This is what it is. Tom Homan weighed in here on Zohran Mamdani. Take a look, Tom Homan. Oh, I apologize. My headset flipped off here real quick. I need this to get turned on. In the meantime, I see a super chat, big super chat, Derek Rogers with the $10. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. He says, true. Who's voting for Jasmine Crockett? Take a look at this. This is Tom Homan on Zohran Mamdani.
Another one, Tom Homan. This new socialist mayor candidate, he hasn't won yet, but he won the Democratic primary, Zohran Mamdani. So he's saying, I mean, this is incredible. He's vowed to kick the, quote, fascist ICE out of New York City, okay? So how do you intend to deal with that? Because I would guess there are going to be a lot of criminals and Iranian cells and whatnot in New York City. The job's not done there. What do you say?
ICE are fascists. So to be very clear, as far as the radical far-left progressives are concerned, enforcing our nation's immigration laws makes you a fascist. Wanting to enforce border security in accordance with the laws that we have on the books, according to them, following the law, enforcing the law at a basic level makes you a fascist, okay?
Hey, this guy.
Good luck with that. Federal law trumps him every day, every hour of every minute. We're going to be in New York City. Matter of fact, because it's a sanctuary city, President Trump made it clear a week and a half ago. We're going to double down and triple down on sanctuary cities. If we can't arrest a bad guy in a county jail, one agent arresting one bad guy, they release him in the streets like New York does every day. We got to send a whole team to look at this guy. And not only that, we're going to send additional teams to look for all the people they arrest. We're going to concentrate in sanctuary cities because we know they're releasing public safety threats and national security threats back to the street. So we know we got a problem there. So we don't have that problem in Florida where most sheriffs work for us. So we're going to double up and triple up on New York. And not only are we going to send more agents to the neighborhood, we're going to increase worksite enforcement tenfold. If we can't arrest them in the jail, you're going to force them in the neighborhood, then we'll find them in the neighborhood. If we can't find them in the neighborhood, we'll find them at the worksite. So game on. We're coming.
I'll tell you what, if the Democrats think that deportations and immigration enforcement is fascist or it's too much already, folks, as you all know, if Trump gets the budget inside this big, beautiful bill, we're talking big, beautiful bill. If Trump gets that budget, what is it, $150 billion allocated for border security and hiring ICE agents and deportations and getting these people out of the country? They haven't seen anything yet. They haven't seen a damn thing. They think it's already bad. It's so fascist. President Trump is a dictator. They don't even know. President Trump is working right now with a very limited budget. If he has $150 billion to clean up these streets, game on. It is game on. The party is just getting started. Now, this guy, what's his name again? It's Zohran Mamdani. Of course, he has all of these radically progressive agenda points, these policy points. He wants universal health care for every single illegal alien in the city. What does that mean? When we talk about free healthcare, universal healthcare, Medicaid for illegal aliens, what does that mean? That means that you, hardworking American taxpayer, who's paying for that? Who's paying for all of these illegal aliens? I was going to list off a bunch of stereotypical Latin American names, but maybe that's a little bit racist. I was about to do it, though. It would have been funny, but I decided not to. Abuela, Taco, Paco, whatever. I decided not to do that. Anyway, now, who's paying for that, for the health care of La Familia? Who's paying for that? It's you, hardworking American taxpayer. You, in accordance with the radically progressive agenda, you are paying for the health care of these people that should not even be in the country. You are doing it. This is what they want, okay? So it's free health care. It's free food. Dude, he talked about making state taxpayer-funded, subsidized grocery stores. Who's paying that for that? You are paying for that, American taxpayer. Free housing. We've seen free housing with Governor Kathy Hochul. Who's paying for that? You are American taxpayer to house, to aid and abet, to support, to pay for the medical costs, to pay for the food, the everything of these illegal aliens. They want them in the country and they want you to pay for it. That is what they want. It is insane. It is freaking wild. And by the way, everything I just said, we just talked about. This is what they want. This is what they are doing. Now, I see real quick before we move on, I want to take a look at these super chats. We had a massive one right now from Greg Adamite. Greg Adamite, thank you. That's massive. Thank you. Hey, brother, wanted to pass it on to you. Your bridge, the little ones, look up to the Rainbow Bridge. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. This stuff, I'm not going to get too much into it on stream just because, but I've read everybody's very kind messages. All the comments, I've read all of them, and thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I just can't talk about that or talk about that on broadcast. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That does mean a lot. Also, Paolo Lungaro, forget about who's paying. Think about being a Jewish person in New York if this guy wins. Think about being how about any person? Think about being an American. Why you got to make it about Jewish people? Think about being a hardworking, tax-paying American who follows the law in New York. Okay? Guess what? Now you have a communist mayor who's taking your taxpayer money. All of the services are deteriorating. The town is falling apart, and your money is being siphoned off to illegal aliens. What about this? What about being American? What about being a hardworking, tax-paying American and your country's being invaded by illegal alien communists? What about that? It's not good. And so thank you. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Folks, we are going to move on to another story here. President Trump showed up in Europe earlier today. I want to talk about what all this NATO stuff means. And also, Greg Adamite, thank you one more time. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you again. That's massive. I really do. At the end of the show today, maybe I can give you guys kind of some personal life updates. But first off, ladies and gentlemen, President Trump showed up in Europe earlier today, this morning, in fact, and now he's been really pressing the Europeans to finally contribute their fair share to the NATO defense budget. He's kicking them in the ass. He's lighting a fire underneath their ass. And when just so you guys have a little bit of perspective here, when we talk about Europeans historically not contributing their fair share to the NATO defense budget, I want to show you exactly what that looks like. Okay, this is for 2023, to be fair. This is not 2025. The year is not over yet, so we don't have that data. This is 2023. It's the best I've got. Folks, where NATO defense expenditure stands. Okay, so little background history on NATO. If you're a part of NATO, part of the NATO agreement is that you need to be spending 2% of your GDP, of your country's GDP, on defense for NATO. On NATO defense budget, 2% contribution, okay? So every country with a green number here, these are the countries that are contributing 2% or more. The countries in red are the countries that are not contributing their agreed upon 2%. Most of the countries in NATO, I would say probably 55 or 60% of the countries of the NATO members have never been contributing their 2%. Somebody in the chat says 5% going forward. That's the discussion in today's NATO summit meeting. But for years prior to today, it has been 2%. Okay. And so for a long time, it's been 2%, and most countries, 55 or 60%, they have not. And then also you have to look, the American GDP is way bigger than any of the European GDPs as individual nations. So America not only has the highest GDP percentage contribution to the NATO defense budget, 3.49. Actually, Poland had 3.9. Relative to their GDP, it is bigger, but you can see the American GDP is massive. We're a very wealthy country. So 3.49% of our GDP, it just reigns supreme over everything else. So it is, as such, it is fair to say American taxpayers have been subsidizing the European defense budget for decades. Okay, so a little bit of a controversial thing. I apologize to any Europeans in the country in the live chat here. I love my Europeans. My wife is European, but this must be acknowledged. A lot of these nice things that Europeans get to have, they have all these very beautiful social services. They say they have free healthcare. They've got this, they've got that. All these really nice issues, or all these really nice social services that they have. They can afford those things because they don't have to pay for a defense budget. And the reason why they don't have to pay for a defense budget, like pretty much every other country on earth does, is because we in America, we have been paying for their defense budget. We have been subsidizing their defense, which is why they get to have a lot of these things. Okay, so anyway, let's double back here. I'm going to read through the article. We're going to talk about everything that has happened today. And Greg, thank you again. Thank you very much. Trump, NATO spending boost is monumental win for civilization. United States President Donald Trump hailed a historic monumental win for the United States, for Europe, and Western civilization as the NATO alliance agreed to his demand to equalize the burden of common defense with a 5% of GDP floor on military spending for its members. So it used to be 2% up until today. The point of this meeting is to get everybody up to 5%. Okay? But it has been 2% for a very long time. Speaking at a press conference before he departed The Hague in the Netherlands to return to the United States earlier today, President Trump saluted a, quote, highly productive NATO summit and particularly noted he came away with a changed perspective on European defense. You guys are going to like this article. You guys are going to like this topic. Pay attention. The centerpiece for the Hague summit, the first major NATO meeting in years, is the adoption of a new floor for spending by member states on their own and collective defense. President Trump's purpose, President Trump's agenda, he flew all the way over to Europe, and the reason why he attended this NATO meeting was to tell these European nations, hey, listen, guys, you need to start paying up. Hey, we have been paying for everything so far. We have been subsidizing the entire defense budget, almost entirely of Western Europe. You guys need to pick up the pace. And President Trump has been talking for years now, really over a decade. You know what? Maybe we should leave NATO. You know what? Is this really beneficial for us to be in NATO? We're paying for everybody else. Are we getting much out of it? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe we should leave. And so, by the way, that rhetoric, him saying that for years and years now, guess what? He's got the leverage. He most certainly has the leverage because now he flew all the way over there, lit an ass under these guys, lit a fire under these guys' asses, and now they've agreed to pay 5%. We're going to keep on reading. Okay. The centerpiece for the Hague Summit, the first major NATO meeting in years, is the adoption of a new floor for spending by member states on their own and collective defense. It's going up. While members had been expected to spend 2% or more of their own GDP on defense up until now, that figure has now more than doubled to 5% of GDP, even if the new figure will include new types of spending not previously considered to count as defense spending. Okay, this change has been widely portrayed as a major victory for President Trump, who has been working to get NATO's European and Canadian members to shoulder more of the burden for over a decade. He was effusive in his praise, stating, quote, "Tremendous things have been accomplished." I lost my spot. "Tremendous things have been accomplished, as you have probably noticed." And he also said, "In a very historic milestone this week, the NATO allies have committed to dramatically increase their defense spending to that 5% of GDP. This is a monumental win for the United States because we were carrying much more than our fair share. But this is a big win for Europe and for Western civilization." Let me check. Have we actually been carrying much more than our fair share? Yeah. Can someone explain to me how it makes sense for Albania, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Latvia, Slovenia to be a part of NATO when they don't contribute anything? And by the way, what does being a part of NATO mean? Listen, I want to explain something, folks. If freaking North Macedonia gets attacked by some foreign country in accordance with Article 5 of the NATO Charter, we kind of need to get involved and help them. That being said, is America's national security tied to North Macedonia? No. Do we care about North Macedonia? Frankly, no. I wish them the best, but frankly, no. Is North Macedonia contributing anything to NATO or the European defense? No. This whole military alliance is like insane. It's like insane. Okay, I'm not, I don't know. Maybe we should leave NATO. I don't know, but and then you compound that with the fact that for decades, maybe now this is changing a little bit, but for decades, a lot of these NATO members over there in Europe haven't been even contributing the fair share that they promised they would. That 2%, they haven't been doing it. Okay, they have been coming along for the free ride. And guess who, by the way, who's paying for that free ride? It's you. Once again, American taxpayer, it's you. You're paying for it, not them. It's you. Okay, I'm going to keep reading this here. We left off right here. When NATO allies meet the Hague defense commitment, it will add more than $1 trillion per year to our common defense, President Trump said. While other NATO members taking more of the cost burden is good for U.S. taxpayers, it will also be good for American businesses as well, the president pointed out, as U.S. defense contractors will benefit from the new orders. Okay, evidently discussions were held during the closed leaders' session away from the cameras, which had an outsized impact on Trump's thinking and NATO and European defense. The president saying he had left the summit today with a new perspective. This is what Trump had to say after he left. "I came because it is something I'm supposed to do, but I leave here a little bit different. I watched the heads of these countries get up, and the love and the passion they showed for their countries was unbelievable." This is President Trump saying this. "I've never seen anything quite like it. They want to protect their country, and they need the United States." Now, listen, folks, once again, guys, I don't hate Europeans. Maybe I'm a little bit cold towards them. Maybe I'm coming off that way, but listen, I love Europeans so much. I married a European. My wife is all the way from Germany. She's a German import. But listen, okay, I need to be honest. This is 7 or 8 years ago. President Trump was in office and he went to one of these NATO summits and he was telling them, listen, you guys need to increase spending. You need to reduce your energy reliance on Russia. You need to take care of yourselves. You need to insulate yourselves and start actually taking care of yourselves. And you know what they did 7 years ago? They laughed in his face. Do you remember this? It's on video. Multiple NATO members, the representatives, when President Trump said, listen, you guys, this is a recipe for disaster. You guys need to take care of yourselves. Okay. You guys need to increase your spending and rely less on Russian energy. Otherwise, this is going to blow up in your face and it's not going to be good for you. That was President Trump's warning 7 years ago. They laughed in his face like he was the stupidest guy in the world. They they mocked him publicly and they acted like he was just such an idiot for saying that. Well, guess what? The tune has changed a little bit, hasn't it? Well. How the turntables, how the tables have turned. Well. And so now, folks, all of them have come around. All of them have realized everything Trump said 7 years ago was 100% true. Their reliance on Russian energy, guess what? It was a problem. Their lack of defense spending, guess what? It was a problem. And so now, not only are all of them agreeing to pay their 2%, Trump said double it and then add another percent. Now they're paying 5%. Okay? So Trump is not only vindicated, Trump is super duper omega triple duper doggy deluxe vindicated. Okay? Could not be more vindicated. Let's keep reading here. Earlier in the day, President Trump affirmed his commitment to Article 5, the Mutual Defense NATO founding treaty clause that states an attack on one is an attack on all. I don't like this. I'm going to be honest. I don't like Article 5 of NATO. And I know that's like kind of the entire point of NATO. I get it, but I don't like it. Like, are you just as an example, are you telling that if somebody attacks Montenegro, that we need to go shed American blood in defense of Montenegro? What the hell? What do we care about Montenegro or Albania? If somebody attacks Albania, frankly, listen, no offense to Albanians, good luck. But should American money and American men and women go risk their lives to defend Albania because of Article 5 of the NATO treaty or whatever? This is stupid. I'm sorry. This is just ridiculous. This is absurd. They don't even contribute. They don't even contribute. This is Luxembourg. Luxembourg, listen. Listen, Luxembourg, no hate. You have been contributing so little to your NATO defense. You said 2%. You've done less than 1% for decades now. Luxembourg, if somebody invades you, I'm going to say good luck to them. I'm going to say, hey, good luck conquering Luxembourg. They've been taking advantage of American taxpayers for years. Okay, in fact, maybe I'm going to give them some money. Listen, the first country to invade Luxembourg, I'll give you $5. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's a little bit too much. Luxembourg is fine. It's fine. No, I have no ill will against Luxembourg, but it's like, come on. We're supposed to defend these countries that have not been contributing anything. You guys can't even see this. Look at this. Luxembourg, 0.72. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's keep on reading here. I'm going to go back to the article. Okay. Now, Article 5, where did we leave off? Responding to these barbs, the president said in an earlier session, quote, I stand with Article 5. That's why I'm here. If I didn't stand with it, I wouldn't be here. Responding to a journalist cutting in to ask, quote, so would you defend countries even if they didn't pay their fair share? Trump said, well, what did I just say? Of course. Why would I be here? Trump is too nice. Trump is too nice. Trump is too nice. You know what he should say? You know what he should do? You know what he should do? He should say, listen, we're going to give all these countries not contributing their fair share, their agreed upon share. But people say, what's fair? 2%. 2% is fair, as they promised they would do. 2%, that's what I mean when I say fair, and they have not been doing that. Listen, we're going to give these countries 1 year, 12 months, maybe 10 months. Light a fire under their ass. And if they are not doing 2%, and now it's got to be 5%, guess what? You're getting kicked out of NATO. Somebody in the live chat said, Matt doesn't really understand how small Luxembourg is. Hey, dude, I've been to Luxembourg. My wife, her hometown, her family is about 90 minutes from Luxembourg. I've been to half of these countries on this list. I'm not even kidding. I guess I'm blessed to say I've done my traveling. My wife is European. We've got our half of the family is in Germany now. They live 90 minutes from Luxembourg. My in-laws, they buy their groceries every week in Luxembourg because it's cheaper for some reason. Anyway, so I know about, I've been there. I know about Luxembourg, and here's what I'll tell you about Luxembourg. They need to pay their fair share. I don't care how big they are or how small they are. Luxembourg is a rich country. They can pay 2%. Luxembourg has a higher standard of living than we do have here in America. They've got probably better quality of life than we have. Pay 2%. Pay your 2%. It's not that hard. You said you would do it. Most of them aren't. Almost all of them aren't. They need to pay. Anyway, thank God President Trump is sticking it to these people. Finally. I think that's the end of the article here. Now, Russia, what is this here? Russia is planning an invasion of NATO within 5 years, warns Zelensky. Are you kidding me? Oh my. And so Zelensky shows up to the NATO summit earlier today. Hold up, remind me, is Zelensky in charge of a NATO member country? Is Zelensky in charge of a country that is in NATO? Oh yeah, he's not. Ukraine is not in NATO. That's right. I forgot. Now I remember. No, he's not. So then what the hell, first off, what the hell is he doing at the NATO summit, given he's not a part of NATO? And then beyond that, he's trying to gaslight everybody and do this fear-mongering, war-mongering rhetoric saying that, hey, listen, hey, Russia is going to invade NATO in the next 5 years, so can you give me some money? So I need a little bit more money. Can I have some money, please? That's what he's doing. And if you don't give me money, then Russia's going to invade. Yeah, spare me. Yeah, spare me. President Trump weighs in on this. Take a listen to the clip. I need to turn my headset on here. Let me flip this on. And that's why he showed up. Does Zelensky go anywhere and not ask for money? Is there anybody he ever... at this point, man, I doubt he's ever interacted with any other human and not tried to get money from them. If he's at a restaurant, the waitress comes and brings him the bill. He says, you need to give me money. I'm not going to give you money. Hold up, waitress. You need to give me money. Okay, President Trump.
Over the past 2 days, I was honored to participate in the NATO leaders meeting and also had extremely good individual discussions with the King and the Queen, Secretary General Rutte, and the Prime Minister. Great discussions, very knowledgeable people. Major focus of our conversations at the summit was the need for other NATO members to take up the burden of the defense of Europe, and that included the financial burden. As you know, it was 2%. And we got it up to 5%. And they said, a couple of them came up to me. One in particular said, sir, we've been trying to get it up to 3% for 20 years, and we haven't been able, and you got it up to 5%. So they're going to be, most of them, I guess almost all of them, are going to be contributing now, 5%, a number that people are surprised at, but you need it today. The United States accounts for 2/3 of all NATO defense spending. And since I began pushing for additional commitments in 2017.
The U.S. has accounted for two-thirds of all NATO defense spending. Folks, how many countries are in NATO? It's like 25 or 24 countries like that, something like that. The U.S. is one country. We have paid for 2/3 of NATO defense spending. It's nuts.
Believe it or not, our allies have increased spending by $700 billion. I said to people, you don't have any money, and a lot of them weren't paying. And so I started the process, and I picked it up as soon as I got back, which is 6 months ago. And following my election last November, almost all have accelerated plans to reach the 2%, 3%, 4%, and then ultimately, very quickly, 5%.
There you go.
And all of this is going to be done very quickly, almost immediately. You probably know this as well as I do. I'm sure they've been talking about it. It's really been a big focus. In a very historic milestone this week, the NATO allies committed to dramatically increase their defense spending to that 5% of GDP, something that no one really thought possible. And they said, you did it, sir, you did it. Well, I don't know if I did it, but I think I did. This will be known as the Hague Defense Commitment, which is pretty good, pretty appropriate. When the allies reach this number, it will add more than $1 trillion a year. Think of that, $1 trillion per year to our common defense, and this is a monument, really, to victory.
And once again, real quick, like we read, a lot of that money, that trillion that these other Europeans are spending, a lot of that is actually being spent on American products. America is a massive arms manufacturing industry, so a lot of that money that Europe is spending is actually being funneled over here to America because they are buying American technology, weapons, whatever, drones, satellites, all of it, A lot of it's coming over here.
But it's a monumental win for the United States because we were carrying much more than our fair share. It was quite unfair, actually. But this is a big win for Europe and for actually Western civilization.
I would say so. Yeah, good, great. And then we also had a follow-up here. I want you to take a look at this also at the NATO summit.
But I think he's a good friend. And when he is doing stuff which is forcing us to, for example, when it comes to making more investments, I mean, would you ever think that this would be the result of this summit if he would not have been re-elected president? Do you really think that 7 or 8 countries who said, yeah, somewhere in the 2030s we might meet the 2%, we've now all decided in the last 4 or 5 months to get to 2%? So doesn't he deserve some praise? And when it comes to Iran, the fact that he took this decisive action, very targeted, to make sure that Iran would not be able to get its hands on a nuclear capability, I think he deserves all the praise.
So, folks, there you have it. Listen, this the vibe has shifted. The tone has shifted. These NATO members, they have seen just the type of terrible stuff that can happen in the world if you do not have a strong leader like President Trump calling the shots at the wheel of the Western world. Okay, these guys are in the back seat. Trump is at the wheel. Trump is setting the speed here. You start having issues like what's going on in Eastern Europe. You start maybe having issues like what's going on in the Middle East. How many leaders can de-escalate this stuff and actually shut it down? None. Reminder, Joe Biden, not once in 3 years, 2.5 years, not once did he ever talk to Putin. The war in Eastern Europe and Ukraine raged on for 2.5 years under Biden's leadership. He never even talked to Putin. He never even tried to have a ceasefire or a negotiation or de-escalation. He never even talked to him. What he did do was give hundreds of billions of dollars of American taxpayer money to Ukraine, further continuing the war, propelling the war along. Did he ever talk to Putin? No, he didn't. Now, folks, there's something I want to share with you guys. This is hot off the press actually right now. President Trump has just posted this on Truth Social. Secretary of Defense War, maybe he wants to rename it to the Secretary of War. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, together with military representatives, will be holding a major news conference tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon in order to fight for the dignity of our American pilots. These patriots were very upset. After 36 hours of dangerously flying through enemy territory, they landed. They knew the success was legendary. And then 2 days later, they started reading fake news by CNN and the failing New York Times. They felt terrible. Fortunately for them, and as usual, solely for the purpose of demeaning President Donald Trump, the fake news, New York Times and CNN, lied and totally misrepresented the facts, none of which they had because it was too soon and there were no facts even available. The news conference will prove both interesting and irrefutable. And this is tomorrow. Here's the problem, guys. This is 8 a.m. Eastern. For me, that's 5 a.m. Western. I'm still getting my beauty sleep at that point. So during tomorrow's live broadcast, we are going to watch the highlights. I will not be here live that early in the morning to watch this with you. And in fact, you guys might be asleep too. So later on in the day, during tomorrow's live show, we are going to watch all the highlights, probably watch the recap and get down to the bottom of this. But listen, this whole fake news, propaganda, bullshit, spreading lies, you know, kind of throwing these pilots under the bus, not good. And so Trump is pissed off about it. Chris27, thank you. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. No, really, I do. Folks, folks, at this point, we're going to try kind of change the show up a little bit here. We're going to shift the mood here for a second. So, first off, I want to apologize for not uploading my regular daily news videos. I think, gosh, it's been probably 4 days since I have even made, it's been 5 days. It's going to be 6 days since I have even sat down and made a video. And in part, it's because we've had all of these protests and riots in Los Angeles and Portland, but then it evolved into the Iran and Israel situation. So there's been, in part, it made sense why there haven't been any videos. There's just been too much to do. Things have been happening. So we've been doing a lot of live streams. Now, I think, I hope it is safe to say that things are kind of mellowing down, where things are de-escalating a little bit. The country is becoming a little bit less crazy, or, you know, the world is becoming a little bit less crazy, at least. So, so now going forward, kind of my plan is to do every day. And I'm not sure what time, earlier in the day, in the evening. I'm not sure. We can talk about that in a moment. But going forward, I want to do a 2 or maybe 3 hour live broadcast similar to this one, and also the one we did yesterday, a little bit shorter, not 9 hours, 2 or 3 hours. And then also that will give me time to make 1 or 2 regular daily videos. I've had a lot of people reach out and say, hey, where are the videos? We love you for the videos. We miss the videos. So the videos are going to come back soon, maybe even tomorrow. And then on top of that, we will continue to do these daily live streams for 2 or 3 hours. Now, I'm not decided. Can you stop spamming the chat, guy? Can you please stop spamming? It's so annoying. Stop doing that. Now, so let me ask you folks, do you prefer like morning or early afternoon live streams, or more evening live streams like this? What do you think is better? The last couple days I've been going live earlier in the morning. Today I went live a couple hours later in the afternoon, and I'm not exactly sure what time zone. I can do anything. So whatever more people like, I'll just do that. It doesn't really matter a whole lot to me, morning, afternoon. Make a video during the stream. Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's not good. So is this a recorded repost? No, I'm live. Hello, I am live right now. We're talking. Okay, yeah, everybody type evening or morning. Morning, evening. Any, either, morning. You know, I feel like I'm seeing more evenings. Like, I feel like I'm seeing significantly more evenings. I think everybody's saying evening. Okay, so I will probably do that. But when we say evening, what does that mean? That means probably 5 p.m. Eastern. Is that okay? Yes or no? 5 p.m. Eastern. A quick yes or no. 5 p.m. Eastern. And I want to see what people say here. We're doing some community building here. Is that a good time? 5 p.m. Eastern. 4 to 7. 6. I'm seeing a lot of people are saying yes, but then also I'm seeing a lot of people say 6. So what if, yeah, why don't we just bump it back by an hour and we just do 6? Is that okay? Bump it back 1 hour, do 6. Presumably if 5 is good for you, probably 6 is also going to be fine. People get home from work, they get off at 5, they got to drive home, take off their work clothes, sit down. It's 6 now. Time to watch the daily debrief. Okay, so 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a good number. And that is 3 p.m. West. For me, that'll be 3. For 6, for you guys on the East, it'll be 6. And then there was something else here. Oh yeah, okay. So let's quickly talk about, so another reason that I have not been making videos and I've just been doing these live streams lately, especially the last 2 or 3 days, these kind of shorter live streams, is because my life, just real life, has been very very chaotic. You know, I've made a couple posts about this, but my dog of 9 years, she was almost 10, passed away two days ago. And so that's been a whole, just really a terrible situation. And there's also, there is, I said this the other day on a different stream I was doing, but there is, gosh, it's kind of tough to say. This dog of mine, she died in a very weird way. Just one night, she was totally fine, happy as a clam, healthy. She's never had a health issue in her entire life, ever, no problems. Went to bed, everything was fine. Came downstairs the next morning, and she's passed away. Okay, and you know, as some of you might be able to imagine, in this line of work, doing, you know, conservative commentary on the internet, I have, sometimes I have people message me crazy stuff, like threatening type of stuff. And so there is part of me that thinks, because guys, she was happy, she was healthy the night before, it was fine. Her name was Laika. Laika was her name. There's part of me that thinks that somebody threw something in my yard. I've had a lot of weird messages, people issuing threats and stuff like that. So anyway, it's been a rough couple days, and over the next couple weeks or months, things are going to be crazy too, because we have decided, we've been thinking, my wife and I, we've been thinking that we're going to move in the next 6 to 12 months. We're going to move. We live in Western Washington. It's a very progressive area. For what I do, for my job here, talking conservative politics or commentary here, I live in the wrong neck of the country. I live in the progressive environment. Everybody, and so I'm like, we got to get out of here. So we have decided to bump up our moving timeline from like 6 to 12 months to maybe 1 month or 2 months. So we are looking to buy a new house and sell this house and move. We're moving elsewhere going to Idaho, to be specific, going to Idaho. And so I'm gonna be moving here pretty soon, and there will be a couple days probably where that's kind of a turbulent process. Maybe, I don't know. I won't be here. I'm not sure, but anyway, the point is, that's kind of why I've been kind of hit or miss over the last week or so. Not making videos. The streams have been a little bit short, is because life has just been a little bit weird and a little bit crazy. But that's my personal life update. So I need to locate to safety. Yes, I agree. Yeah, we want to get out of here. I agree with you. Folks, that I think is going to be the end of the show. I think we've covered all of the daily news. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that, Derek. I appreciate that. And also 5150 Dolomite. Thank you. Idaho is expensive. Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. That's true. No, we guys, it's not really up for debate. My wife and I have been planning this for a long time. We're going to Idaho. I know there are other good places all over the country. We love those places, but we're going to Idaho. It's a non-negotiable if that's where we're going. So, but I appreciate the feedback. This is going to be a wrap for the show. Thank you all very much. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate all of you that have left kind comments all over the place on Twitter or the YouTube post today. I appreciate. I read them all. Thank you guys very much for the support and everything. I will be back tomorrow. We'll do another live show. We'll have some more news updates, and we'll break it all down. And I hope everybody here has a great night and a great morning. And thank you all very, very much. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great